can talk about the Allison in July. You know, they only had 35 rooms of their normally 85 capacity, so they ran 98% of their capacity. And the vacation rental seems to be fairly strong, but you know, the same story holds is that, you know, they're only renting rooms every 24 to 48 hours, and so they can't go to maximum capacity like we're used to. And then we're also seeing average rates in the county in June were $94.75, which is down 41%. So even though we're busy, it's like the restaurants with their limited capacities. You know, the revenues just aren't where they need to be for them to be able to carry it over. And so I concur with Shannon that there's a big concern about what do we do come October, November. You know, how are we going to be able to stay open and survive this thing? So very concerning times.
So Leslie, I have a follow-up question with that. So what I'm hearing is that some of the occupancy rates might be inflated because they're at reduced capacity, and especially in the case of the Allison, reduced room rates, right? So they're earning less money per room. When we get the report outs from Orla or Travel Oregon, do those adjust for inflation, or is the year over date, is that including the reduced? In other words, I'm asking, are the numbers actually lower than being reported?
Yeah, good question. I believe that with they report to STAR, which is Smith Travel Research, and I believe that STAR, I don't know if they've accepted the adjustments down. So like even when the Allison closed in March, unless you file for a full property closure, otherwise it will skew the statistics. And I believe that they did take into account the property closures, but they're not taking necessarily into account that not all rooms are available on any given night. So
it might be more dire than is being reported. In fact, it likely is.
I need to find that out. That's a very good question.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get us started just to make sure that McMinnville Community Media knows that we're going. So welcome to the Friday edition of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. It's good to see the mayors on the call, given that you're also at the mayor's conference right now. I know it doesn't look like it, but they are at the mayor's conference. That's the magic of the internet. So thank you very much for joining us today. I just want to note that Representative Gomberg has graciously agreed to join us because I feel like we have an urgent need to know what the legislature is up to, and he's agreed to join us. So thank you, I really appreciate it. We've got Representative David Gomberg, we have Shannon Buckmaster of the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce, we've got Mayor Michael Keep of Amity and the Salem-Keizer School District. We got Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville, Leslie Caldwell from Taste Newburgh. We have Councilor Remy Drabkin from the city of McMinnville, and we have Gioia Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce. And I think I got everybody's titles correct this time. But Mayor Hill, I apologize if I address Councilor Drabkin as Mayor Drabkin. It's just a mistake.
No, she well deserves that title.
But it's still a mistake on my part. And then I believe that we have an extra Representative Gomberg. I'm not sure how that works, but I don't know. Maybe that's Tyler?
I believe that would be Tyler Jensen, my Chief of Staff.
Yes, it is. Hi there.
Nice to see you again, Tyler. Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, I need to, oh, no, I don't need to promote. Well, I'd love to get started. We have a special session starting on Monday morning, I believe, and I'd love to have Representative Gomberg give us a little bit of insight onto what might happen, especially around the budget. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, everyone. Nice to be with you. I might mention I was in Yamhill County last night visiting with some of the good people of Sheridan. It was a lovely evening to take a walk around downtown, and especially a nice opportunity to catch my breath before I go over to Salem for our second special session. Let me start by saying that the Emergency Board met this week. We met on Wednesday, ostensibly to make pretty much the final allocations of the monies sent to us by the federal government to address COVID. And we have, through the course of this process, allocated about $1.4 billion to a number of really worthwhile causes, everything from helping small business, reimbursing local government, dealing with the effects of domestic and sexual violence, helping people pay their rent or utilities, buying PPE, and even helping entertainment and cultural venues that have suffered the loss of ticket sales. So there's been a lot of money going out the door. During this last round, it was interesting to see that one of the proposals actually was voted down. It did not have enough votes to pass, and it had to do with the state buying more PPE, personal protective equipment, for local governments. And the concern was, we're hearing from a lot of local governments, thank you very much, but we'd rather decide for ourselves what our priorities are rather than the state deciding how to spend money for us, and to give us more flexibility with that local funding. The measure actually failed when 2 Democratic senators joined the Republican senators in voting against it. So that one goes back to the drawing board. I will tell you, with all the money going out the door, that I remain concerned about 2 things. The first one being that it's not enough to get it out the door. It's also important to get it delivered to somebody else's doorstep. And I'm concerned that we are not seeing some of this money reaching small businesses, reaching targeted communities, reaching people who are waiting for their unemployment benefits to arrive, even though it has been several weeks now, even a month since we took action at the last emergency board. The other concern I have is that much of this money, perhaps a disproportionate amount of the money, is going to our large cities and not so much to our small cities and rural communities. And that will be an ongoing conversation that we will have as well. So the emergency board met, took action. It was our 6th emergency board meeting this year. To give that some fascinating context, the emergency board normally doesn't meet at all. And we've met 6 times so far this year. So now we've got our special session that's been called, and it will be the 2nd special session that we will have this summer, with possibly a 3rd one on the horizon. At this point, the primary focus of the session will be to make adjustments in the Oregon budget. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but we are suffering now from what one group of economic analysts referred to as a perfect storm. And the perfect storm is that, first of all, that fewer people are working in Oregon, and that means fewer people are paying taxes. So we have a revenue decline. The second thing is, unlike many states, we don't have a sales tax. Now, I'm not a sales tax supporter, but that being said, if we had a sales tax, even if people were not working, they would still be buying, and that means they would still be paying taxes. In our case, because people aren't working, they're not getting paychecks and they're not paying income taxes. So we don't have a cushion that a number of other states are able to sustain themselves with. And the third part of this perfect storm is, at the same time that we are looking at reducing budgets, we also set out over $1 billion in kicker checks to Oregonians. And if we had not returned those kicker dollars to Oregon taxpayers, we would probably be fitting into about an average situation compared to other states that are reducing their budgets. Instead, we're at the very bottom, looking at a substantial decline in state revenues, and therefore making a number of proposed cuts this year, which is why we're having a special session to reduce the budget for this year, a budget which we actually approved and debated a year and a half ago. So we're looking at changes that are going to affect state budgets for the next 6 months, and then we're going to be going back in January to develop a budget for the next 2-year cycle, which will again reflect the expectation that our revenues are going to be down for the coming years as well. So we have had the committees have been meeting, they've been reviewing the budgets, the tri-chairs have gotten together and made a number of proposals. all of those are going to be up for discussion next week. The short version I would tell you is that we're cutting every place except for education. We are not really making substantial cuts. Where we made increases to support public safety and our state police. There have been some other targeted adjustments, but overall, we're looking at reducing state budgets to reflect the fact that we have less money to work with. The really big question right now is whether we will do more than deal with the budget. Are we also going to deal with policy bills, as we did when we gathered a month ago and dealt with a number of policy issues that affected tax rates, affected police accountability, and affected COVID? And there are a lot of proposals out there. But there's also some rather heated conversations going on in quiet places about whether or not we should stick to the budget or whether we should allow the doors to be open and discuss a lot of policy proposals. Here it is Friday afternoon. The session begins 8 o'clock Monday morning. I don't know whether we will have other bills. If we were to have another bill, I certainly hope that the liability waiver would be among them. We've talked about that before. A proposal that I brought forward arguing that small businesses, local government, school districts should not be liable if they are following best practices and someone then comes into that business or that public restroom or that school building and believes that they got sick there. There's a number of other proposals that are circulating as well. That's one that I've got an eye on, but I don't know if any of them are going to move forward next Monday morning. And I don't know whether we're going to go in Monday morning and be done by dinner time or whether we're going to be there all week. So that's what I'm working on today. And I see a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead.
May I? Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Gomberg. Always appreciate seeing you here every week. I heard through the grapevine that there may be discussion about separating from the CARES Act. And there's concern that businesses, small businesses that received PPP and EIDL loans would have to pay taxes on that money. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that the Revenue Committee had a hearing yesterday, that they had some conversation about this subject, and there is a legislative draft that has been put together. Now, usually when a legislative draft is put together, nobody gets to see it until it's actually introduced as a legislative bill. It's kind of like attorney-client privilege, that just because we're talking about an idea doesn't mean that we've introduced the idea. But in this case, if you go to OLIS, the Oregon Legislative Information System, and click on the link to committees, which will take you to the Revenue Committee, you can look at the hearing yesterday, and you can look at the materials for the hearing yesterday. It will include a copy of the bill, which is pretty hard to understand. It'll also include a legislative analysis of the bill, which is a lot easier to understand. And you will see the testimony that was submitted in support of this proposal. I took a look at that earlier this morning in response to some questions. I did not see where anyone had actually come in to testify against it. And the indications, at least in the testimony, were that if we don't make this change, that the benefits are 90% of the benefits are going to businesses that are profiting more than $1 million a year. Those are some of the arguments being made. You're saying you're concerned about small businesses looking at an increase as well. I'm very interested to hear more about this because, as I said, yesterday, hey, I had not heard about this at all. Today, it's a legislative concept, and we may be voting on it on Monday. So get me some more information. Tyler, you're on the line. I know you've been digging in a little bit deeper. I'm going to put you on the spot and say, can you think of anything that I've left out in that quick overview?
No, I think you covered it, and I dropped in the chat for the panelists here. There's a link to the draft, and then there's a link to those materials and the testimony. So just like you, I'm poring over them as well, and we're hoping to be ready if it comes up on Monday.
I thank you so much. I appreciate both of you, Tyler, the information, and Representative, your comments. I am very worried that right now, small businesses that are hanging on by their fingernails are not going to be able to live through having to pay taxes on the money that they received. So I will leave it there. And I know you understand that, but I'm saying it for the record. It's important that we think about how they're going to be impacted by this. It's already hard enough. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Gioia. Thank you for sharing that. I hear from them as well. As we began the panel, we were talking about the perfect storm and about businesses that need business now for the winter, and for sure, the money from the government is a very, very important part of that. Just want to put a plug in for the $600 a month extra unemployment while we're at it. Representative Gomberg, is there anything else? I feel like there was one more question from somebody else.
Well, you mentioned the $600. That federal addition to unemployment compensation expired on the 25th. That's kind of a good news, bad news thing in many of our communities. The bad news is that if you're unemployed, that you're getting $600 less a week. The good news, if there is any good news here, is that a lot of businesses are getting back open and they're struggling to find employees. And there is the argument that in many cases, employees were making more money unemployed at home than they were on the job. I mean, if you're working full-time at minimum wage, then you're getting $600 a week before taxes. That's how much the federal government was adding to your unemployment compensation. So as the federal supplement has ended, we're seeing a lot more people coming back to work. The final part of that I will mention, and this circles back to something I said about e-board allocations, is the e-board also voted to send an extra $500 to anyone who had not yet received processing of their unemployment claims. That wasn't going to solve anybody's problem, but it was going to at least offer a little bit of help to people that have been waiting months and not getting any feedback from the employment division. Those dollars have not yet been distributed. And I don't even know if we have a process yet where people can apply for those dollars. I say that to you with very great frustration. Meanwhile, the employment division seems to have made its way through the backlog and at least has processed the claims. Let's make sure we're not talking legislative speak to any of your listeners out there. If we say we processed your claim, that doesn't mean they have mailed you a check. It means they've opened up your file and are beginning to review it. And it's still going to take some time to get through that process, adjudicate if necessary, before people actually start getting their payments that they have been waiting way, way, way too long for. But at least the employment division is getting through the backlog and has open case files.
And Representative Gomberg, that's a really good reminder that processing is really just the beginning, unfortunately, for many folks. I hear from, I probably get a dozen emails a day from folks who are in increasingly desperate straits. And that's with our representatives and our employment economists from the area working to get their claims moving along. I'm glad you mentioned the thing about adjudication, because a lot of folks who have reached out to me are people who've had their claims processed and they're now stuck in the 12 to 16 weeks of adjudication. So there's some talk, and I don't know, you probably know, between you and Tyler probably know, of providing some funding to the folks who are in adjudication. Can you explain that, or do you have the information?
I'm going to defer to Tyler for a little more detail, but the short answer is the employment division has decided that they're going to start sending out some payments, even though people have not been fully reviewed and all the details of their case finalized. Tyler, do we know how much money they're going to be sending out? I believe, was it the minimum amount?
That's, as I recall it, yeah, the minimum qualified amount. I think the issue here is that adjudication, can take upwards of 12 to 14 weeks. They're still trying to figure out this process. There's a lot of strings attached to how you distribute unemployment benefits. So they're still sorting it out. The department has let us know that within the next 2 or 3 weeks, they're hoping to have that process ironed out, and they can start pushing out those minimum payments in the hopes that people can float through until the full amount arrives.
I have a question about that. Is there any concern that people would have to repay those payments if when they go through the adjudication process, it's found that their claim is not going to be accepted?
Do you want to take that, Representative?
Oh, boy. Short answer, Shannon, I don't know. There's a statute in place right now that says that if the state makes a mistake and sends you too much money in unemployment benefits, that they cannot collect those dollars back until the next time you're unemployed, and then they take it out of your benefits. That is to say, they don't send the case to collections. They don't garnish your bank accounts, garnish your wages. They wait until you're getting new benefits, and then they reduce your future benefits to recover the overpayment. Let me tell you that that's something I'm very frustrated with. And you've heard me talk before about the challenge of collecting money that's owed to the state of Oregon. Unemployment benefits are just one very small part of that huge amount of money that we should be working harder to get. But if we're going to wait until you're unemployed to start getting money back from you that we overpaid, wow, I'd rather start collecting your unemployment when you're working and you're doing well than when you're unemployed and not doing so well. That's like kicking somebody when they're down again. I guess there are some people who say, gee, if the state made a mistake, let's just let people keep the money. That's one option. And if we had more money than we knew what to do with, I'd be probably pretty supportive of that. But we don't have more money than we know what to do with. And I'm interested in taking a good look at the process for how we deal with overpayments and making sure, again, that we don't try to get it back from you the next time you're out of work.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Shannon,
Thanks,
do you have a follow-up?
No, I just wanted to thank Representative Gomberg. You have been a wealth of information and insight today. We appreciate you helping us prepare for Monday.
Well, thank you. I'm going to have to jump off the phone and get to another gathering in just a minute. So I'm going to defer all of your questions to Senator Merkley's office.
It's just what I was going to say. Way to transition us.
Thanks, Representative.
And welcome, Stacy. You don't even need to know what we're talking about because you've got your own set of bad news for us. So
Yeah, I just am the bad news messenger a lot lately. I'm sorry.
welcome.
Hi. Negotiations are going really badly. The Senate has been sent home for the weekend. Senator Merkley has not left. He kind of staged a protest yesterday and is refusing to leave DC until we take up this bill. The issue is that the discrepancy between the HEALS Act and the HEROES Act is vast. And by vast, I mean $2.5 trillion vast, a lot. I got a little bit more information on the differences between them. I just wanted to share one. I confirmed that the 501c6s are not included in the HEALS Act. So that's one issue there. But when it comes to, so like broadband and E-rate, the HEROES Act had $5.5 billion. The HEROES Act had $5.5 billion. HEALS Act has $0. For testing and contact tracing, HEROES Act has $75 billion and the HEALS Act has $16 billion. On vaccines, there's money in the HEROES Act. There's money and a strategy for vaccine and distribution plans. In the HEALS Act, there's money but no strategy or distribution plan, which we're really concerned about because there was no national strategy for testing or PPE, and that has been really, really difficult on states and local communities to try to get that together. And we believe that there needs to be a national strategy and plan to get those vaccines out as well. SNAP benefits, there's $10 billion in the HEROES Act and $0 in the HEALS Act. Child nutrition, $3 billion in the HEROES Act and $0 in the HEALS Act. Medicaid increases federal match by 14% and $0 in the HEALS Act. Unemployment benefits we touched on, but that's the HEROES Act extends it by $600 a week extends that $600 weekly unemployment benefit through January of next year. The HEALS Act reduces that to $200, and after September, states would be paying employees 70% of the income they had before they lost their job. Stimulus payments are the same basically on both sides. And then state and local governments is a big one for us. There's nearly $1 trillion in aid for state, local, territorial, and tribal governments in the HEROES Act, and zero in the HEALS Act. So that's where we're at. There is a big difference between those two. We need 60 votes to pass it in the Senate, so there has to be some bipartisan support. Senator McConnell, well, there doesn't seem to be any interest really on either, like, they're, without getting too much into the politics of it, I don't know. We've offered some middle ground solutions, and that's not really it's becoming more clear that that's not going to be an option. So I don't know how I see this ending. It's not looking good right now. And now we're hearing from Senator McConnell that maybe we'll take this up in September. So.
Stacy, can I have the first go at a question?
Yep.
Okay, so we just had Representative Gomberg on, and he's been an advocate for the liability kind of coverage waiver, and I know in the state, and I know that there's opposition to that. And then at the federal level, Senator McConnell has expressed that that's his red line. I don't know if he's changed his tune, but he has said he wants liability protections for businesses.
Yeah.
Can you share with us the argument from the other side? And I wonder about, is there a red line of no liability waiver? Okay.
I don't think that's it. The concern is the idea of kind of a blanket immunity. And Senator Merkley feels pretty strongly that in cases of, egregious behavior, that there shouldn't be immunity from liability there. So I think there is room for middle ground on that. It's just the blanket liability issue that at least Senator Merkley is struggling with. Whether that's a red line issue or not, that I'm not sure of.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thanks for tackling that. It's nice to know that there's some willingness to consider it.
Yeah, and he definitely understands the need for businesses to not, just have people walk in and sue the heck out of them for no reason. But we also have to protect consumers and employees too. And so there's got to be somewhere in between that will work.
As a person who hears from employees who have concerns pretty regularly, I get that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Questions for Merkley's office? Can you go, okay, so my second question then is, can you go into a little bit more detail about I think you mentioned the adding to the federal match on Medicaid, or you said something about the 14%. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure, so that would just increase, so the federal government provides funding to Medicaid for the state. And so in the HEROES Act, we would increase the funds that go to each state by 14%. And then that would theoretically help with like lower income people getting access to care and access to testing. So that's, I think, the goal there. And then in the HEALS Act, there is no increase there. Okay, so we're trying to take some of the burden off of the states by putting that federal funding on the Medicaid.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you meant by that. Yeah. And since we were just talking about the state budget and the special session, that's going to be a huge part of it, is the increased share of Medicaid expenses. So
yeah, and we really strongly feel like the money to state and local governments is critical right now. That's a big push, and I mean, 1 trillion to zero is a big difference. So we have to keep trying for that one. And
it is.
I think part of the tension is too, if this bill we passed the third bill, and there was a lot of talk and a lot of hope to be like, okay, we've got this, now let's get to the fourth one and we can get deeper into details and figure these things out. And then it became very clear that fourth bill was and is not a guarantee. if we pass this bill without money for state and local governments or without broadband funding and money for schools, I don't expect there to be another. So we're in that position as well.
Right. It looks like Mayor Hill has a question for you as well.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, thank you, Stacy, for keeping us updated on things that are breaking all the time. It's so hard to keep your fingers on everything, you know, city, county, state, and federal government. So you have such a wide breadth of knowledge that we appreciate it so very much.
Oh, thank you. It's usually really fun.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay, so maybe my third question, this will be a question for Stacy, but I bet that the business leaders on the call will also have thoughts about it, is I was just reading in the Oregonian this morning that the Main Street Fund, so I think that's what it's called, it's not the EIDL, it's not the PPP, only has had 7 applications. The whole federal one, like the entire federal thing. Can you explain that?
No. I didn't know that. I can look to get more information there. The Main Street Lending Program?
Boy.
Yes.
7?
It was like, and they literally, because it was so few, the paper laid out who they were. You know, it was like 47 million had been spent, something like 2% of the total funds.
God, no. You caught me off guard with that one. I did not know that. I will follow up with our ledge team who works on business issues to see what they know about that. I'm sure
I'll take a picture of it and send it to you, of the article. Yeah. Okay, I've hogged her time. Are there other questions for Stacy?
Leslie Caldwell actually had a question, and I'm sure it's something that Gioia and I are also interested in, that
Thank you.
we're hearing you correctly, that 501c6s are not included in the HEALS Act. We were just on a call yesterday with the U.S. Chamber saying that there would possibly be exceptions for DMOs, exceptions for 10% or fewer activities on lobbying, no paid staff. Like we were looking at so many concessions to be able to get some sort of hope. And you're saying there's no hope moving forward. The Senate is not considering that.
No, definitely not saying that. I'm just saying in this version of the bill, in the HEALS Act that was released by the Senate Republicans, that's not part of it.
So can I put out there that C6s have gone without funding for almost 6 months now? If it's not in this iteration,
yeah,
who do you think is going to be left around in 2 or 3 months by the time we get a 5th federal response?
Oh, I know. It'll
be easy to fund us then, because all your C6s are going to be out of business.
Yeah,
We're businesses just like everybody else. We have employees, we have payroll, we have operational expenses, we have programming, and we're critical partners. Stacy, you're amazing. You're a great representative for Senator Merkley, the information you give. So please know this frustration is not going to you directly.
You have every right to be
going
frustrated.
out here to say,
yeah,
we have no place to win, and it's going to leave a tremendous gap in our economy.
And the HEROES Act, in my understanding, did include you guys. Is that correct?
It did, yes.
Yeah. And we're trying to get that one. We want to pass the HEROES Act. It's been almost 12 weeks now, just sitting there. And yeah, the HEROES Act is.
If it doesn't happen now, and we're 12 more weeks down the road,
I know.
We can't hang on that long.
Might I also add that all of the people that work in those chambers of commerce, when they close, will then be on unemployment.
Yeah.
We have kept our staff. We're paying our staff, but I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do that. So it's not just the impact to our community, it's the impact to the people that work for us, and ultimately unemployment, because they're going to have to go on unemployment if we have to close our doors. And so, yes, please, if you would please bring this message.
I will. We'll keep bringing it, and we do not want to see you guys go under. And the worst part of this is there is an opportunity right now to help and to fix this, and it's just not. It's the reality of it is just it's not, and it's so infuriating because it's there.
I'm going to put my pitch in from the DMO community, because the DMOs are 100% funded from hotel lodging tax revenue. And so if the hotels are down 40 to 50% and we have no other way to find funding, most of the DMOs in Oregon they're like the chambers. We're on our last breaths as far as financing, so it's only a matter of time before they start closing. So thank you for listening to our appeal.
No, I'll hear it and take it every time. We want to fund you guys and keep you open. It's so depressing. And all I can say is that we'll keep trying.
Full disclosure, I'm trying to figure out a way for the county, with Gioia and Shannon's help, and Abhi Shah from SegCorp, trying to figure out a way for the county to essentially look to the DMOs and the chambers as part of our economic development infrastructure, and then provide funding to them on a contract basis. But it's not like a county has the money really to hold up in any kind of real comprehensive fashion every C6 that's working to keep businesses alive.
No, the federal government should be paying for this.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. This is the bearer of bad news left and right.
And I apologize. I clicked on something and the screen went away, and I was about to transition to Shannon Buckmaster because she said she has a timely segue.
Well, I was gonna say, Stacy, that you're among my favorite people to hear bad news from. So thank you.
Thank you.
But I do have an update. This is how critical it's getting. So the city of Newburgh last week announced a new position, an economic health manager, and this is taking economic recovery out of the private sector and putting it into the public sector, so that we have business retention, business attraction, business support. So a lot of the things that our chambers are doing is coming out of this public position. And the big announcement that I had for the panel this week, to support the success of my chamber, I have accepted the position with the city. So I am transitioning. I will be officially named soon as the economic health manager for the city of Newburgh. It's a combination of all of these impacts coming together. It allows our chamber to keep our staff here. It allows our programming to continue, and it allows me to continue doing really important work for our region on things like urban renewal, economic development zones, the construction bond we have coming up, all of these access to fundings, opportunities, grants, management of the Business Oregon funds, the federal opportunities. So we're now having to pivot with significant, I consider this a reallocation of resources, recognizing that resources can be people or money, so that we can support our business recovery. I'm very fortunate that our city had this opportunity for me to pursue on behalf of our community. I'm very fortunate to have my skill set, my professional talents, my enthusiastic passion for my region. I'm fortunate to have an outlet for that. Many of my colleagues, many of whom are more qualified, more experienced, more talented in economic development work, may not have that opportunity without critical funding. So I just put that out. It's a bittersweet announcement. I love the work I do. And I love the work I do so much. I'm looking for the next opportunity to do that work.
For the community that you love too. I mean, that's...
Yes, I get to stay local, which is awesome on a million levels.
Shannon, when do you move over to that new position?
So right now, the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Newburgh are cooperating together to make the transition throughout the month of August. I don't officially have a final stop date at the Chamber or a start date at the City of Newburgh, but it will be over the next several weeks. And again, we're looking at consistency in program, overlapping for business support, economic recovery. I'm essentially moving full-time into economic development work. So it's a solution. Thank you. Thank you.
Does this mean I still need to write that letter?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, it's due by this, I don't know, this 16th or something.
But yeah, so that's the big update. And, you know, it's hard to deliver that message with the message that we're getting from you, Stacy, because again, it's like, yes, I'm excited. Yes, I'm grateful, but I'm also concerned.
I am concerned too. Congratulations, though.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I was gonna call on Gioia, so look at that.
Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, like I read your mind. I have a question for Shannon, and I'm sure, folks who may be listening to this are wondering what is going to happen to the chamber. So the staff will stay, correct? I think that's important for people to hear that.
Yeah. So again, it's simply a reallocation of resources. Our chamber really never fully closed. We just locked the front door to keep people out of our office who didn't necessarily need to be in there. So we're still providing all visitor center services, over the phone support, member support. We transitioned all our events to a virtual format. So we're holding greeters, Newburgh Perk when that happens, chamber after hours, our member benefits events. All of that is still happening. And now instead of 2.5 full-time staff members, that workload is going to 1.5 staff members, but Patty and Josh are staying employed at their current work levels at our Chamber of Commerce. It means that we're pulling more on volunteers, our volunteer board of directors, our ambassador team, our program chairs. So all of that programming is remaining consistent. Of course, we 18 months ago negotiated a new 10-year lease for a downtown location. So we have beautiful downtown space that we will continue to operate out of. And, we're starting to have conversations on mortgage and leasing and forbearance. We're businesses just like everybody else, So Joy, do you have other questions? Nope, the chamber's not going anywhere and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to have a different business card. That's it.
I think people need to hear that, Shannon.
Yeah. And maybe a few more restrictions because I'll be a public employee, which is going to be odd because I'm an entrepreneurial background-minded person. But if that's what it takes to support our business's economic recovery, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, I know you've been working hand in hand with MEDP, but you'll be more in line kind of with some of the things that Scott's doing there.
Well, and I think the city of Newburgh, to their credit, is taking a very innovative approach. They've listened to all of the suggestions that I've had from the chamber role moving forward. They've come up with some really great ideas. They're very responsive. We're still working very closely with SEDCOR as our county economic development coordinator. So we're just really rounding out the team. And if you look, I feel like I'm being long-winded today. I'm sorry. But one of the goals that I had when I was hired by the chamber 2 years ago was to hire a full-time economic development director. And I thought that would have been a chamber employee. And I thought that would have been connected to the formation of a chamber foundation with a 501c3 title. But that progress has since been derailed. So just like we've done in every other business situation, we're on to the next plan, on to the next solution. We will go over, around, under, and through to support our business community right now. So this is an opportunity. It's an idea that we knew. Newburgh's at 24,000 people. We're at that critical stage of development where we need somebody focusing full-time on business attraction and retention, just like MEDP in McMinnville. We're just taking a different model than McMinnville took to accomplish the same benefit for our community.
Yeah.
So it's not a new idea. We're just figuring out how to do it a little differently. And like I said, I'll have a new business card, but I'm still here doing the same good work.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right.
Thanks for all you've done. It's been a great partnership and we'll continue to work together.
Oh, you're not done with me. You couldn't get rid of me.
I know I'm not done with you. That's good.
It's kind of like when I heard that Jody Christensen was moving to the governor's office, and I was like, she was like, "I'll see you again," and
She's a great partner.
And I think I talked to her on the phone twice yesterday. We exchanged 4 texts and 3 emails.
Yeah.
It's just a normal day.
That reminds me, I just talked to her today, and you owe me a conversation, actually.
Wait, I do? Uh-oh. Okay, thank you for that information, Shannon, and thank you for keeping us. I feel like this was the theme today, so we always need a theme. Gioia, what would you like to tell people today? And I'm also curious because I feel like there is some relationship between the city and the McMinnville Chamber, and whether you've talked about that. And since we've got the mayor on.
So well, we have MEDP, which launched out of the chamber and is doing fantastic work for our city, and they always have. So they are separate. They have become a separate entity from the chamber. When did that happen, Mayor? Like 2 years ago, maybe? right before Jody left.
Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah. But we continue, we meet. So we have this thing called the Stable Table. So it's MEDP, the city, the chamber, MDA, and Visit McMinnville. We are the economic development organizations within the community, and we meet monthly. We're doing it over Zoom now these days, but what we've done, what's been really interesting is we used to sit down and talk about what's happening in your organization, what's happening in yours, and now that has shifted, talk about pivoting. And what we've done as a group is sat down and said, okay, what do we do moving forward to support all of the businesses within our community with regard to economic development? And so, Mayor, I don't want to take your thunder, so I'll because we have an announcement to make, which is super exciting, and so I'll mention it a little bit, and then I'll let the mayor take on the rest of it. But we've got some business support services and some funding that has come through, and there'll be a larger announcement next week. We'll be sending that out to the membership, and we're looking at all kinds of different ways that we can support our businesses as separate entities, collaborative entities, and also Shannon and Abisha and I also work together on a regular basis. We have weekly meetings, and we're looking at ways that we can also bring, value to our businesses through the work that we do. I will mention it 3 more times. Only 3. Today, Monday, and next week. Lemonade Day rocks. Our kids, Mayor's going to come out with us and Lemmy on Saturday the 15th. Come out, support our kids. Look at Lemonade Day lemonadeday.org/McMinnville. You'll see all of the information about our kids. We've got 100 kids registered, over 100 kids registered. I don't think we're going to have that many stands. There may be some kids who do Lemonade Day their way, and they may be doing a virtual Lemonade Day. I don't quite know what that looks like, but it's so exciting. Come and support our kids. We are, we're happy we get to do it again. We are following all of the regulations. All of the kids have been notified about what the health regulations are. And so if there's any questions about health regulations, the kids have been notified, their parents have been notified, and the health department knows about what we've been doing with our kids. So there should not be any surprises there. Next week, not next week, the week after, I went to a training this past March in St. Louis for Our Community Listens. I will be what is the word? They're going to be testing me. And hopefully I'm going to be confirmed as an Our Community Listens facilitator. So I'll be doing my training and my final test basically on the 17th through the 19th. And after that, Our Community Listens is a fantastic program about communication skills, and a good communicator is always someone that listens. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm excited about it. And I once again, I thank everybody. Enjoy the glorious sunshine. I love seeing the rain yesterday. I'm just going to share that. I didn't have to water my garden. And I appreciate being on these calls every week. Thank you so much, Commissioner Kula. Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you because I don't want to steal the thunder.
Okay.
Good segue.
Well, again, I think, Gioia, we've told people a little bit about our good news, but again, I think it was a week and a half ago we learned that we picked up a Business Oregon grant of $100,000 to help economic recovery within the McMinnville city limits. And that's primarily going to be focused on women-owned business, sole proprietors, and then we've also heard that individuals that have received PPP and EIDL funds now will be able to participate. So that opens a greater door for them. We're also, my understanding in my last report is that our funding, the $100,000 that the city is going to put up, could be used. We can use some of the CARE Acts for that, and if we're able to do that, that gives us then that $100,000 to pursue a relationship with organizations like MISO, where we would then put that money up to take care of, it's kind of like a bad loan fund, and they go out and lend, and we might be able to get 3 times that money. So if all comes together as we hope, we could see $400,000 to $500,000 in economic recovery dollars in McMinnville. We wanted to move quicker and faster, but in reality, looking back, we know those that have survived, and we're going to help them, and having a 5 times greater impact in this community, I think, is going to be very very helpful. We have a very short window, though, to utilize these funds, and we've already got the McMinnville Economic Revitalization Committee working on this, and we've done a subcommittee, and so we're going to just be moving forward very quickly. So these funds are going to be available and hitting the street, I'm thinking within 45 to 60 days. So that's the good news that we have. And if we can take that money, that 100,000, go with MISO, then again, that's going to even further go out and help. That will be a low interest loan, and that's a harder thing for businesses to work into what they need to have worked into. But again, it's money, and it's going to be helpful. A couple of other things that I just had, as Commissioner Kula said, the Mayor's Association, we had our first virtual conference. Instead of 3 days in a location, it was going to be in North Bend. We were in our homes for 2 half days, but it was a phenomenal conference, and it's a precursor to what the LOC is going to be doing. We used technology. It worked really good. We had somewhere between, I'm guessing, about 50 mayors in attendance over the 2 days. But some of the things that we heard from Tim Dewey, who's a professor at the University of Oregon, who becomes, I think, one of the best economist in the state of Oregon, and really focuses on Oregon and the region. And just a couple of the tidbits that he pulled out for us. He talked quite a bit about the pandemic and the effects that had, but the stimulus that the federal government has given us has really had a positive impact on families throughout the nation. Number one, if you didn't have an impact to your salary, then that was extra money that lets you grow your savings. A lot of people were using those, and it goes in to stimulate the economy. And economically, he showed us the charts where that impact is very visible, and what would have happened if that had not come out. So we're hoping that there's a second stimulus that's going to come, and that can again do that bump in the economy and helping businesses and keeping us afloat. The other piece, we had a long discussion about broadband and how, given remote learnings and everybody's utilizing computers, tablets, phones, how important broadband development is going to be in rural communities. And McMinnville, we have good what I would call connectivity, but you get outside in the county and it's much worse. And so again, he talked a little bit that from a federal perspective, how critical broadband development is going to be. We had our specialist at LOC come on and talk about broadband within Oregon and some of the things that are going to be needed to be happening there. The other thing that I wanted just to talk about is we had a national speaker from the National League of Cities, Leon Andrews, who is over what is called a program called REAL, which is Race, Equity, and Leadership. And he's one of the foremost in kind of the DEI movement. And I'll tell you, Casey, I'm gonna get you some information on that, because I think we need to work hand in hand with cities within the county and the county. This presentation was an hour, but they have so much information that we can really build, I think, a more solid DEI approach in this county, and the biases that we don't even know that we have. And so I'm going to get you that link, and we'll sit down and talk a little bit about that. But that was probably the highlight of our meeting this morning, and it was just phenomenal. Two other things I just want to share. Number one, the school district and with the governor sharing that we're going to have distance learning for schooling. I know the McMinnville School District is gearing up for that distance learning. They had a three-prong approach that they were going to do, and now they're really putting their hands around distance learning, what that's going to look like. The other piece today, many citizens in McMinnville received an email from the Willamette Valley Medical Center, which urges our community members to wear masks, and had a quote by their lead physician, Dr. Bevan, that talked about we need to take responsibility not only for ourselves but for others in spreading the virus, and wearing masks is the best way to do that. That pushed me a little bit to look into our case numbers countywide. We are looking at we have 413 positive, 9,716 negative, with 12 deaths. That primarily is being us at about 4%. Of those that have been tested are positive. Again, as a slight increase for the county, but it gets us really close to that 5% that we have to be under, and it's been creeping up. I've been watching the numbers for county, and we've been as high as 22 new cases a day. Yesterday it was 19. In McMinnville, we've got 171 positive cases, and so again, that's putting us right at about 5%. So we still are we're right where we need to. So I would submit to our citizens of wearing masks and protecting themselves. Had a chance to meet with the hospital last week, and the hospital they have PPE. They're in good shape, but at the same token, they're just saying that we need to be vigilant in the things that we do. So that is primarily what this week has delivered at the city. We're working on all kinds of other things. I was a part of a committee. I dropped in last night, MacPac, which is looking at the recreational things for McMinnville, and that's an active group. I think they had 17 on that committee, and we went for over 2.5 hours last night. So some good things from that perspective. So that's my report for the citizens of McMinnville.
Great, thank you very much, Mayor. We've lost all the 2 o'clock calls, but I thank you very much, especially for getting us some of the county specific and the city of McMinnville specific information around coronavirus. On the, you talked about broadband from the mayor's conference, and I think that Stacy and I are going to have a conversation about it. But at our Thursday meeting, I brought forward an agenda item of how we could use coronavirus relief funds that Senator Merkley's office worked so hard to get for states, for broadband specifically for rural installations. And I think that out of that conversation, we're going to have, we're setting up a grant program so that specific projects can be, ISPs can apply for specific projects to, to get these 20 households here that don't have any internet, or these 40 over here that have only satellite available, and we're putting. It sounds like we haven't settled on the full number, but it sounds like we may be putting as much as $1 million towards that. And it's interesting how in the city of McMinnville, Online Northwest can extend a line and pick up 100 homes and 400 people. But it might cost $100,000. In the rural areas, it's looking like it's about $7,000 per household to do as many as 400 or 500 households, and it's kind of shocking when you look at, say, if you're just trying to reach school children, that it costs as much as $15,000 to get the internet set up for each school child. But that's why we haven't done it as a community, as jurisdictions, as businesses, is because it is really expensive to extend it in the rural areas. So
I know that's why Online Northwest going to Sheridan and Willamina, that was a great project because it brought fiber to them, and they were looking at the long haul of being able to provide and recoup. But when you're looking at the onesie twosies out there, it is so difficult, and the costs are so high.
Yes, so we hope to have Kathy Tate submit a couple of applications to us. It's our hope, and then we're hoping that other ISPs will also take advantage of that. There's some that come into the county in different areas, and we'd like to see them as well. You were talking about the current statistics for the county, and a great document that I feel like is really helpful as we look towards school reopening. The OHA maintains just a PDF that has the new cases per 100,000 residents in the counties, and then the positivity rate for the last 7 days. And that's been really helpful to me because it's not the cumulative, which it's really easy to look at, say, the positivity rate by, taking your positive cases and dividing by your total tests. And it's been interesting. The last week from Wednesday to Tuesday of the last week, the positivity rate actually went up to almost 13% in the county. And it was clearly related to outbreaks, specific groups of people who the county found and contacted. But as part of that, we also ended up with 76 new cases per 100,000 residents point in time. And as both of you know, actually, the governor wants to see 10 cases or fewer per week. So that's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful.
We've got a lot of work to do, don't we? We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. The statewide numbers are actually much more encouraging than our county's numbers. So, and we just, the governor announced yesterday that one county was coming off of the watch list, and I don't believe any counties went on, which is a good thing for us. But it also means that we don't have access to all those contact tracing resources that the OHA provides to watch list counties. So thank you for that update. The last thing I wanted to mention, along the lines of what Stacy already gave us an update on, is while I definitely understand the sentiment of folks who say, $600 per week in extra unemployment benefits is a disincentive to work. But I happen to know that most of the people who are receiving the $600 a week, they love doing their jobs, whatever job it is that's out there. These are folks who are totally passionate about their area of the world. And the money that's coming into the county from that is a very significant source of revenue to the businesses on 3rd Street, our hardware stores. There's so much economic activity that's generated from that, and so many bills that are paid. And so I want to make sure that as we go forward, we really balance those need for having employees in businesses that are hiring while still acknowledging that we are in the middle of a pandemic. And I thought that your comments were really appropriate about that $100,000 that's coming in to the city. And you're like, well, it's a little bit late, but it really is not. The county got money out, and we felt like it was slow because it was 3 weeks. After shutdowns, but a program like yours is helping keep businesses alive as we go forward. So I really commend you for that.
Well, and that's a discussion we had with Tim Dewey about going too early because you kind of put a stay into the inevitable, and you lost that money because the businesses weren't going to be successful even with that little bit of money. Now we've got those that are strong that can maybe weather the storm, and we're going to be able to be more helpful to them to be a survivor.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Stacy. Some final thoughts. What commissioners and mayors that are on these calls, what can we do to help move along the HEROES Act, HEALS Act reconciliation?
So
what can people in the community do as well?
Yeah, you know, contact your senators and your state reps. I can tell you that here, you know, both your U.S. senators are pushing really hard to get the HEROES Act passed. I don't know. We're seeking stories right now too that I can put an ask out for. If folks are interested, we're just asking people, anyone, mayors, community members, teachers, you know, whoever feels like the HEROES Act should be passed and needs to be passed. We're looking for stories for people to share and kind of why it's important that happen. So I can send that out to you, Casey. But really, you know, our sticking point is senators in other states. So I would say, you know, mobilize your friends and family, because Oregon is, this is not a blue versus red state issue. Every state is suffering right now, and we have to put some money out there. That's the way it's going to get better. And yeah, I was just thinking the comment on being late. Late is when it's been, you know, 12 weeks and we haven't passed a bill that could significantly positively have a good impact on our country. That's late. And then I think in closing, I just wanted to thank Mayor Hill for diving into DEI work, especially, you know, things are really difficult right now and there's a lot going on. And I just appreciate you making that space and just being enthusiastic about it. I think that's really great.
Good. Well, it's a part of our strategic plan, and it's now taken a real priority. And so we've moved up, and I've been pushing probably for 8 months, and it hasn't moved too much, but now it's on the front plate. So we're excited about that. We're going to put a community group together and be working on that.
Great. That's really good to hear.
Awesome. And at the state level, around the issues of DEI, I'm not going to get the names right, but the governor's new structure for economic response and recovery is the Racial Justice Council. Did I get that right?
That sounds right.
And then I believe from there are economic response and racial equity our teams, something like that. So really looking at recovery through the perspective of how we can reduce racial disparities. And as I tried to explain to somebody, it doesn't mean that we're trying to go from all businesses matter to Black businesses matter, but that's not really even, it doesn't really capture it. It's that if we focus on reducing disparities in outcomes and opportunities, we actually can affect things for everybody.
Absolutely. That's beautifully said.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We've gone to 2:15. Congratulations, and thanks to McMinnville Community Media for being so patient with us. I really appreciated hearing from you, and I hope the community does. And remember out there, everybody, stay safe, wear a mask, keep your distance from other people, even if that means you don't go to that barbecue. We really need to get over the hump of this pandemic into a place where we can just work on recovery. So everybody who's here, well, the 4 folks who are, but that are left, we are here working for you every day. Reach out to us and we can help you. All right, thank you, and I'll see you on Tuesday.